Hey guys, welcome to the Wild Side Encounter, a place where truth and controversy collide. I am your host, the Maverick, Stephen DeSantis, fitness and eating psychology coach. It's an honor for me to be here sharing with you my thoughts, beliefs, and my experiences. My goal is for you to have an educational, enlightening, and transformational breakthrough. Wild Side Encounter is an out of your mind, out of control experience. If you're looking for normalcy, guys, this is not the place for you. We discuss things that are beyond the ordinary, having powerful, rooted dimensions in life. The world needs people who are going to be crazy enough to stand against the opposition, get to the core issues, ultimately the truth that needs to be spoken of, and that's what I'm going to do. So let's get ready for a ride on the wild side. Change the way you think, change the way you feel, change the way you look. That is today's podcast segment. Your mind is the most powerful tool you have in your container. And at times, your mind can be a self-terrorist. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we humans are a very unique species indeed. We are the only beings on planet Earth that are terrorized by our own thoughts. We are tortured by our own thoughts. You'll never see animals confused about who they are, how to eat, how to live, how to mate. We have allowed outside influencers to become part of us, taking over our inborn intuitive nature, posing as imposters. These negative influences are at the very core of our inner thoughts, creating how we feel and the way we choose to live. Every second of every day, we are creating what we like and what we don't like. It's that simple. We have 65,000 thoughts per day, 90% of which are negative in orientation. And this is impacting who we are. The human mind is one big creating machine that at times can do the impossible, defying the odds, and at other times can be your weakest link, exacerbating that 90% negativity that you conjure up and manifest into what you call reality, which you then display to yourself and to the world. When we allow our thoughts to flow in unity with our inner guidance, that intuitive knowing that we were born with, we are at peace with self. The war is over. There is no need for reassurance or second guessing what we already know to be true. However, through propaganda and the opinions of others, we lose sight of who we are. We become lost and confused. Our thoughts no longer reflect who we are and can and will negatively impact our health and well-being on all levels at any stage of life, creating dysfunction. The key ingredient is being very careful to whom and what you listen to. Gain wisdom by searching and creating your own truth, your own beliefs, and not just those that have been placed out there. Your thoughts about anything or anyone can expand or limit your view of what is real or not. By allowing yourself to be expansive and whole to what's around you, the world opens up and becomes your playground. The magic is revealed. Thought is the facilitator for action. Thought sets everything in motion when mixed with energy. And because the universe is comprised of pure energy and not solid objects, you can now see how powerful thoughts can be. Nothing can be made real unless there is not only a thought, but power behind it. For example, with all the incredible transformations that occur in the living system of the body, one major biochemical action that occurs that works harder than any other system in the body. It is the workhorse of our biology, packed with power, and in my opinion, has been belittled to nothing more than mere chemistry, is metabolism. Truly an incredible process that has to happen for us to sustain life. Now, as our primitive science puts it, metabolism is defined as the sum total of all chemical processes that occur in the living system to maintain life. It truly is a miraculous means by the body. Now, when we hear that, automatically and obviously we relate it to food. More importantly, the vitamins and the minerals that we eat. But on the contrary, what you don't know is that it goes much deeper than that, having to do more with our relationship with food and not just the consumption of food. Let's remove the opinion of science because I personally believe it's skewed. We are not machines, we are living biology, and we should look at metabolism in a different light, one that allows us to take control and not just accept what is so. From this viewpoint, metabolism should be viewed as the sum total of our inner thoughts and feelings towards what we eat. By relanguaging the mainstream scientific definition of metabolism, we now get down and dirty into the depths of our thoughts and feelings that haven't been explored. Forces that can overpower and overturn any nutrient, period. This is where we venture into the realm of the psyche and what it's trying to say, rather than skimming the surface, ignoring these necessary profound life messages, relying on the internal system to just guess what it's supposed to do without the proper input. Take a look at the key word that I used above to connect us to food. I'm talking about relationship. The golden nugget. As my mentor Mark David says, every single one of us has an intimate, committed, and lifelong relationship with food. This is true. But then I realized that these very same words also describe our relationship and our connection to people. And that's when I came to the conclusion that there is something much more deep here than just the consumption of calories alone. Let's look at the three distinctive dimensions that form our relationship with food and how they are involved in the process of metabolism. Intimate. Well, just as we have intimacy with our partners, with our spouse, we have it with food. Food and sex are the two most biological primitive acts on earth. For those who are lacking in intimacy, food becomes your primary source of love and nourishment. Food is love and love is food. And your metabolism will react. Committed. Being committed to your significant other is important because you develop a sacred connection to that person, just as you do with food. So it can help heal you on a biochemical level, and your metabolism will react. Lifelong. Well, for any relationship to survive, to function, it needs a lot of work, and that takes time, sometimes a lifetime. For you to sustain life, you need to continually eat for a lifetime, and your metabolism will react. As you can see, these three dimensions are designed to be part of us. They are designed to fulfill the eating experience, our relationship to that experience, and act as a metabolic driving force. Your thoughts, if not coming from a balanced, positive relationship with food, can greatly impact the way you burn calories, store calories, and the way your body functions. So, how exactly do our thoughts impact our metabolism and the entire digestive process? It almost seems too good to be true. How does this phenomenon work? Well, first we must understand how the brain works, how the brain interprets food. When you sit down to eat any food, the brain scans an image. It takes an internal photograph of what you're eating. And this occurs in what is called the cerebral cortex of the brain. This is where attention, awareness, perception, and thought takes place. Information of that image is then transferred to the limbic system, which regulates your emotions and your survival-based physiological functions, things that are out of control, such as your hunger, your thirst, body temperature, sex drive, heart rate, blood pressure. Now, inside the limbic system, you will find what I call the brain of brains, the hypothalamus gland. And this teeny weeny gland, the size of a pea actually, connects your thoughts to your body. Now listen very carefully to that. And this is why it's so very important to be witnessing what you're thinking, because your thoughts will mirror your body and how you function. So let's say you're about to eat your favorite type of food, whatever it is. I don't know. For this example, let's use pasta. I mean, who doesn't like a nice pasta dish with tomato sauce? Plus, we tend to get pulled into a vortex of emotions that drives us to go munching on such carbohydrates. You devoured the whole thing and almost reached the point of an orgasm because it was that damn good. The hypothalamus gland kicks in and will now regulate this incredible positive sensational experience you just had. And it will do this through fibers of the parasympathetic nervous system, sending this feeling to the salivary glands and to other digestive organs, which will then stimulate your digestion and give you a powerful metabolic boost, lighting you up, turning you on, burning calories in the process. Fantastic. Now let's say you have the opposite effect, a negative experience because you allowed yourself to somehow, through the process of eating, feel guilty towards the pasta, that you shouldn't have had it in the first place, that it's carb overload, that you might put on weight, and now you're judging yourself, shaming yourself, placing yourself in the unique position of judge and jury. The hypothalamus gland will take this negative experience through the fibers of the sympathetic nervous system, which will then hinder the information being sent to the digestive organs, which basically means you'll be eating the pasta, or anything for that matter, with very little to no digestive response or breakdown whatsoever, slowing the metabolic process down. The potential for that food to stay in the system longer now increases and can greatly impact the amount of healthy bacteria in the gut needed to break down the pasta. In this case, calorie burning potential begins to suffer and decline, which would lead you to store more of those guilty calories because of your guilty thoughts from the pasta into body fat, also making it extremely difficult for you to burn those calories. And why? Because you thought it up. You created disrupting thoughts around food that does way more than just give you energy. You basically changed the way your body is designed to digest food, and in such a case, you became the unwanted recipient of constant hunger, binge eating, overeating, and weight gain simply because your eating experience was not a positive, nourishing one. And I'm positive many of the listeners right now can relate. Our thoughts towards the food we eat become our reality, for better or worse. Are you witnessing your thoughts? Maybe it's time. Another powerful impact our thoughts have on the body is through its correlating relationship with our chemical messengers. I'm talking about hormones. After the consumption of the pasta dish is consumed, and the information, I'm talking about the emotional response, is carried to the hypothalamus gland, it then directly acts upon the pituitary gland, which, if you don't know, is the master gland of the entire endocrine system. The pituitary gland passes on this information from your thoughts into hormones. So what we're seeing here is a distinct pathway that allows your thoughts through the endocrine system to produce a hormonal response when in reality it had nothing to do with food. It was the mere thought response that is the main driver. The reason for this is well known through what is called the cephalic phase insulin response, or CPIR for short. This is where you can actually gain weight just by thinking of a food. In this case, we're talking about the pasta. Haven't you guys ever heard of the saying, just looking at that food is making me gain weight? This phenomenon is absolutely real. Now, let's take a look at the thyroid gland, another powerful gland in the process of metabolism. The thyroid gland, first and foremost, needs to produce enough thyroid hormone for the body's systems to function efficiently and maintain a proper weight. Well, let's get back to those positive thoughts towards the pasta dish, because those thoughts will invoke the release of thyroid hormone and also increase the output of digestive hormones. The digestive organs increase their natural movement ability, and the impact of the thyroid hormone will increase the rate of function of every single cell in the body. You didn't even need to see your doctor or healthcare practitioner. All you had to do was love the pasta eating experience, or any food experience for that matter. If you're not in a sound place of mind when eating the pasta or food, because you're constantly thinking you shouldn't be eating it, this is a stress response to the body, which will then inhibit the release of thyroid hormone, downgrading your metabolism, making it easier to store that food as fat. Any stress-induced state of mind is going to shut down the metabolic pathway that allows you to burn and utilize food for energy to help run your body systems. It could be guilt, shame, judgment, fear. Any form of self-attack on oneself is recognized as a stress response and is considered a threat to the brain, regardless of how slight the stressor is. I don't care if you're eating the most powerful, healthiest foods known to mankind. If you're eating them while thinking negative thoughts, your fat storage reserves go up and calorie burning potential goes down. The power of thought has its hand in the cookie jar at all times, even during the phenomenon called the placebo effect. Listen to this. Earlier on, I mentioned that your thoughts become your reality. So let's expand on that through certain studies that were conducted back in 1983. There was a study completed by researchers testing a new chemotherapy drug. They administered this drug to one group of cancer patients. And the other group of cancer patients was given a placebo, which was basically an inert injection of salt water. Now, obviously, the one common side effect to chemotherapy that everyone knows of is hair loss. And that's exactly what happened to 74% of the people receiving the new drug. However, what they also found that was astonishing was a whopping 34% of those on the placebo also lost their hair, and that's because they expected to. The power of thought towards this common side effect made itself shown. The power of expectation revealed itself in the placebo group. So what I'm trying to say is, if the power of your thoughts is strong enough to make your hair fall out, what do you think could happen when you eat under the negative influential thoughts, which so many people do so? Such as, I am going to gain weight if I eat that. Or, fat is bad for you. Carbs are the devil. Thinking this way, you guys are creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. You already know the outcome because you thought it up. If you're eating and thinking of what can go wrong, then realistically, it's going to happen to a degree. Things such as fattened food will make me fat. Eating eggs is going to raise my cholesterol. You have to stay away from sugar because it's toxic. In my opinion, there is merit to a degree in some of these statements. However, you and only you can exacerbate and magnify their effects by how you hold them. The reality is there are many things in life that have the potential to do harm, but it doesn't mean that it's going to. Take a look at some cultures around the world and you will see that this is true. Look at the French. They wine and dine for hours. Their fat consumption is through the roof. They drink a hell of a lot of red wine, and yet they have some of the lowest heart rate diseases around. The Japanese, specifically from Okinawa, eat a diet that is 90% carbohydrate based, such as rice, and miraculously still find a way to stay slim and trim. And the mortality rates are some of the lowest in the world. And here lies the secret. I can assure you, when the French sit down to feast, the last thing on their mind is a negative attitude towards food, or wine for that matter. They're not eating meat and cheese thinking they're going to clog their arteries. They don't hold up a glass of wine, make a toast all the while, fearing the sugar content and that somehow it's going to screw them. When the Japanese sit down to eat, they are eating what their culture has provided them for thousands of years, following their natural inborn instinct instead of fearing that their high carbohydrate diet is going to somehow make them gain weight. These countries have not developed the false notions that Western civilization has regarding food. They eat and enjoy the experience. We eat and judge the experience. They eat and celebrate the experience. We eat and punish the experience. It all starts with how we think about food. We torture ourselves about the potential negative things food can do to us instead of thinking of all the wonderful benefits food provides us, even if it isn't a so-called healthy type of food. Here is something I always run into with people when they describe their relationship with food to me. They say, it's either good or bad. And right there is where the problem begins, because a food is neither good or bad. A food is neutral. It depends on how you use the food that gives it power. It depends on how you think of it that can transform you or not. So let's say you ate a so-called bad food. Now your thoughts immediately go to a place of punishment, because in that moment you have done something wrong, and the brain knows that. Now the judgment comes down on you from your own thoughts for eating that so-called bad food. And what form of punishment shall you give to yourself? Let's see. Maybe you go on a strict calorie restricting diet to make yourself feel better. Maybe you kick your ass for the next few weeks at the gym, ramping up the cardio till you can't walk. Or maybe you don't eat for the next few days, teaching yourself a valuable lesson not to do that again. You will find all sorts of punishing acts to impose on the body to remove the guilt and the shame, thereby generating a low-grade physiologic stress response that will downregulate your metabolism. If your goal is weight loss, you just killed that opportunity. The reality is, all so-called good or bad food is nourishment, period. And that's how it should be viewed. It's not there to punish you. Only your thoughts can translate that into reality. Food is there to serve a purpose. How you view food is the determining factor in your relationship with food and the results you get. We have developed toxic negative beliefs towards food, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy when we really know nothing about what we set our thoughts against. If you want results, you have to change the way you think, not always necessarily what you're eating. Negative or disruptive thoughts can impact your metabolism and the way you burn calories. You know, it's funny because the first thing people do is blame food. It's the food's fault. That's why I gained weight. I say to them, hold on here. How can that be? The food is just sitting there. It's not inviting you in. It's not speaking to you. You're doing that through your thoughts. It's not asking you to judge or moralize about it. You're doing that through your thoughts. We are creating a repetitious pattern of dysfunction when we do this. We need to reprogram how we think. We need to change our views. When we take on this type of thought process with food, making it right or wrong, we put in place tight regulations that constrict us and burden us, making it difficult to have a sound relationship with food or anyone for that matter. Whether it's diet or exercise, unfortunately, these two elements are usually performed through fear. People will use these fearful thoughts, their fearful thoughts, to motivate themselves to get where they want to go, only to find out it's short-lived, and in most cases will not give you what you have set out to accomplish. And because of this fear-driven thought towards food or exercise, you're creating a physiologic stress response that is shutting you down from results and living life, either through the diet that doesn't suit you metabolically, and by way of the specific type of exercises you have chosen as punishment that is wearing your body down, driving you hormonally haywire, creating internal chaos. Look at perception, which is the major driver in hormonal imbalance. Another physiological factor that is a powerful driver that can affect our thinking, which can affect the way we function. An example, let's say you're tired and you desperately need more energy, okay? But you perceive that you need a cup of coffee instead of more sleep. Well, that perception is now going to reflect the belief, the behavior, which can cause a problem down the road hormonally. So as you can see, the perception of more coffee isn't going to serve you long term. The same way an individual's perception is towards food and weight loss through toxic beliefs, because they have allowed themselves to be programmed to believe this type of nonsense, this type of stupidity, which is functioning through them. You need to give yourself some space or more space and clear the ether of the past influencers that have governed you this far. Develop a new energy. Erase what you currently hold close and begin at once to develop a whole new thought process that is different from the previous one. Think your way to a life that you want to see. Think your way to a body you want to live in. Think your way to health, well-being, and longevity. Thanks for tuning in to the Wild Side Encounter.